Have you ever questioned why, despite living in a culture that exalts immediate gratification, a growing number of individuals experience a feeling of inner emptiness? What is the reason? Despite our attempts to fill that void with fleeting experiences, we continue to wake up with a perception of soul fatigue, as if something within us were gradually extinguishing. What I will share today might be disturbing, but it could also constitute the key to emancipating yourself from that imperceptible prison in which you may not have even noticed you are captive. On this occasion, we will address a mystery that few venture to unveil. A habit that seems harmless, even normal, but if you don't recognize its impact, it could be extinguishing your soul, disconnecting you from your authentic self, and obstructing your personal and spiritual development. The most fascinating thing about this mystery is that it remains in silence. Society accepts it as normal. It justifies it and even promotes it as a fundamental requirement. But what few understand is that behind that involuntary impulse, there exists a very intense force that, if not directed adequately, can end up destroying you internally. And then the fundamental question arises, what if that habit is subtracting the vitality you require to build the existence you truly long for? What if it's hindering your thinking, restricting your ability to materialize your aspirations, and distancing you from your most sublime mission? If you perceive that something doesn't fit completely in your existence, if you experience a permanent perception of discontent, or if you simply find it difficult to preserve inspiration and concentration in your personal undertakings, this content is directed at you, because ultimately what we will address here does not constitute a mere bodily act. It's about vitality, consciousness, and primarily freedom. Before delving deeper into the subject, let me relate a narrative that perfectly exemplifies what you are about to learn. A long time ago, in a small village surrounded by hills, there lived a boy named Gabriel. Since childhood, he had shown curiosity and a tendency to dream. He spent his nights contemplating the firmament, questioning what his reason for being would be in this immense cosmos. However, as he matured, something began to transform in him. That luminosity that previously shone in his gaze gradually began to fade. The years passed and Gabriel began to exist as everyone around him did. He abandoned himself to the same pursuits: recognition, triumph, bonds that promised to fill his void. But every time he achieved what he desired, the void in his being grew larger. He perceived himself trapped in a pattern of temporary complacency, followed by a deep emotional and spiritual exhaustion. One day, while traveling along an ancient path that crossed the grove, Gabriel encountered an older man who resided far from the town. It was said that this individual used to offer wise guidance to those who were prepared to hear. Intrigued, Gabriel opted to approach and converse with him. "Tell me, boy," the older man expressed, "what brings you here?" Gabriel exhaled deeply. "I perceive myself as lost. No matter how much I try to complete my life with conquests and relationships, the void in my interior doesn't vanish. It's as if I'm allowing something precious to slip through my hands, but I don't know exactly what it is." The older man sketched a smile, as if he already had knowledge of the answer. "What you are wasting, Gabriel, is your purest vitality, that which links your physical body, thought, and soul. We inhabit an environment that instructs us to find outside what we can only find within ourselves. And without realizing it, you have been ceding your strength in exchange for fleeting delights that distance you from your genuine nature." Gabriel furrowed his brow, confused. "What does that imply?" The older man approached him and expressed in a calm tone, "Every time you try to complete your lacks with external stimuli, each time you consent to your most thoughtless impulses taking command, you are consuming your essential vitality, that same force you could employ to create, to materialize your aspirations, and connect with the cosmos. Instead of nourishing your soul, you are depleting it." The boy experienced a tremor running through his spine. The older man's expressions resonated in the depths of his being. "And how can I prevent it?" he inquired urgently. "You must learn to preserve your vitality, to channel it toward your internal development instead of wasting it on delights that only leave you hollow. When you assume control of your internal force, you will find a tranquility and a completeness that nothing and no one can take from you." Gabriel expressed his gratitude to the older man and returned to the village with a new resolution. From that moment, he began to examine his own tendencies. He noticed how much time and vitality he had devoted to seeking approval and external complacency, when all he required was found within himself. Gradually, he began to perceive himself as more robust, more united with his nature. His radiance, which had previously faded, returned to shine with greater force than before. That narrative is a mirror of what many of us experience currently. We cede our essential vitality in exchange for external stimuli that assure us they will provide complacency, but that really distance us from our genuine nature. Have you questioned how much of your vitality you are wasting daily without noticing it, and how you could recover it to reconnect with your soul? Stay here because now we will delve deeper into this matter. I'm going to clarify how certain habits are depleting your vitality and, more relevantly still, how you can emancipate yourself from them to begin existing from your authentic inner strength. I'm going to clarify something that, if you understand it, if you implement it, can drastically modify the way you perceive existence. Your essential vitality is the force that drives every facet of your being. It's what grants you the ability to create, materialize, love, connect, and develop spiritually. However, what many don't know is that this vitality is not unlimited, and how you administer it can mark the difference between experiencing a full life or perceiving yourself as constantly empty, disconnected, and lost. The difficulty arises when we cede that vitality unconsciously to external stimuli that assure us they will provide instant complacency. That continuous pursuit of moments of enjoyment, approval, or entertainment is depleting your most authentic nature, leaving you without means to nourish your internal development and your spiritual connection. Contemporary culture saturates us with messages that incite us to find outside what we can only find within ourselves. They communicate to us that happiness is found in obtaining more, in perceiving more, in experiencing more. But what they omit telling us is that every time you pursue those fleeting stimuli, you are consuming your internal current of vitality. Visualize for an instant that your essential vitality is like a flow that circulates within you. That flow should nourish your creativity, your instinct, your ability to love, and your connection with the cosmos. But if you don't protect that flow, if you consent to it being diverted to places that don't contribute to your soul, the only thing you will achieve is its depletion. And when that flow is depleted, you perceive yourself as hollow, exhausted, disconnected from yourself and from others. Surely on some occasion you have questioned why, after certain moments of temporary complacency, a deep feeling of emptiness invades you. It has happened to you that after pursuing something you believed would provide you joy, the perception of completeness lasts very little, and immediately the emotional and spiritual exhaustion returns. That happens because instead of cultivating your nature, you have depleted your vitality on things that don't nourish your soul. And I desire that you pay attention to this, because it's fundamental to understanding what is happening in your existence. Every action, every thought, every choice you make consumes a portion of your essential vitality. And when that vitality is consumed, you begin to experience clear indicators that something is not going well. Have you perceived yourself as fatigued without evident motive? Have you observed that no matter how much you try, you don't manage to find lasting tranquility? You perceive that although you possess many things in your environment, something in your interior continues empty. These are signals that your vitality is being poorly employed. The most relevant thing you must understand is that every time you try to complete your internal voids with external stimuli, you are ceding your force. But what does this imply in concrete terms? It implies that you are exchanging your purest vitality for a complacency that in reality doesn't nourish you. And here lies the principal problem. The constant pursuit of external enjoyment has transformed into such a normalized habit that we don't even notice the damage it's causing us on a spiritual level. I desire that you visualize that every dawn, upon awakening, you receive a limited quantity of essential vitality, as if it were a tank. That vitality is destined for your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, your personal development, and your spiritual connection. However, if you invest it in things that don't contribute genuine value to you, you're left without means for what truly matters. And the most serious of all is that frequently we are not conscious of how much we are wasting until we perceive that we have nothing left. The true problem is that we inhabit an environment that has instructed us to find outside what we can only find inside. They have made us believe that we will be happy when we reach certain objectives, when we are with certain people, or when we achieve certain social approval. But what really happens is that this constant pursuit disconnects us increasingly from our genuine nature. And when you find yourself disconnected from your nature, you begin to perceive yourself as lost, hollow, and without direction. Now then, I'm not expressing that you shouldn't enjoy existence or pursue pleasurable experiences. What I'm manifesting is that you must be conscious of where and how you are destining your vitality, because every time you consent to your impulses dominating your choices, every time you pursue instant complacency without considering the long-term repercussions, you are weakening your soul. Reflect on it this way. If you spend your life ceding your vitality to stimuli that only provide you fleeting enjoyment, you will never have enough to nourish your internal development. And here is where the cause of the problem is found. They have instructed us to consume, to constantly pursue something that makes us perceive well-being, but they haven't taught us to preserve our vitality, to protect it as the most precious resource we possess. The key lies in channeling that vitality toward your own development instead of finding outside what you believe you lack. Begin to investigate internally. Ask yourself, am I destining my time and my vitality to things that truly nourish me? Or am I falling into a pattern of external pursuit that only leaves me more hollow and disconnected? The majority of people live in that pattern without even noticing. They wake up each day, follow their routines, and without being conscious, they are ceding their vitality to circumstances, individuals, and habits that contribute nothing positive to their existence. And afterward, they question why they perceive themselves as depleted, dissatisfied, and lost. But here is the reality that few reveal to you. Your vitality is your force. And every time you consciously choose where to destine it, you are assuming control of your existence. If you learn to preserve your vitality and to channel it toward your internal development, you will begin to observe profound transformations. You will begin to perceive yourself as more robust, more connected with yourself and with the cosmos, because when you stop investigating outside and begin to nourish your interior, your radiance begins to shine again. I desire that you reflect on this. Every action you perform today is forming the person you are going to transform into tomorrow. And if you continue ceding your vitality to things that don't nourish you, you cannot wait to perceive fulfillment and peace with yourself. It's time to make a determination. It's time to cease investigating outside what has always been within you. Now then, this doesn't imply that you should separate yourself from the world or elude human experiences. What it implies is that you must be more conscious of how you administer your vitality. Are you nourishing your soul or are you depleting it? Are you cultivating your nature or are you wasting it on things that contribute nothing to you? Spirituality doesn't refer to renouncing the world, but to living in it from a position of strength and consciousness. It refers to learning to protect your vitality, to preserve your nature, and to connect with your genuine self, because when you do, you begin to experience a profound transformation. Your existence ceases to be a series of empty pursuits and transforms into a journey of self-discovery and fulfillment. So ask yourself, what are you destining your vitality to today? Are you cultivating your soul or are you ceding your force to things that only leave you hollow? Having reached this point, I desire that you take a moment to meditate. Everything we have addressed today is not something you can transform overnight. But yes, you can begin to make small conscious choices that generate a difference in your existence. Every time you opt to preserve your vitality, every time you determine to invest in your personal development, instead of falling into empty stimuli, you will be taking a step toward a fuller, more genuine existence connected with your nature. And here I desire to ask you a direct question. What is it that has impacted you most about everything we have addressed? I would love for you to express it in the comments. Perhaps you have noticed a pattern you are prepared to modify, or maybe you feel that this content has provided you that piece of clarity you were searching for. Whatever it may be, I desire to read your perspective. Remember that when you express your thoughts and experiences, you also assist others who find themselves on this same journey. Additionally, if this message has reached you in some way, it's not by coincidence. There is a reason you find yourself here listening to this. The cosmos always reveals to us what we need to learn at the appropriate moment. So if you perceive that this content has provided you value, subscribing to this channel is a way to maintain that connection and continue expanding your consciousness. Here we address topics that seek precisely that, to help you reconnect with your nature and exist from your genuine power. And before you depart, allow me to express something relevant to you. You do not find yourself alone on this journey. There are many people who, like you, are investigating answers and trying to understand how to live in a more conscious and full manner. So subscribe, share this video with someone you consider requires it, and primarily, remember that all transformation initiates with a determination. The path toward a more authentic existence aligned with your soul begins today, here, now. Are you prepared to take that step? I await you in the comments.